Hi and welcome. I'm Andy Miocha and you're watching AnewZ. Here are the headlines. Car drives into crowd in German city of Mannheim, killing 2 and injuring several. UK will play a leading role in achieving peace in Ukraine, Prime Minister Keir Starmer says in Parliament. The 97th Oscars conclude with AnewZ taking home 5 awards. Thank you for tuning in. A car has rammed into a crowd in the center of German Mannheim, killing at least 2 people and injuring several others. Police arrested the driver and the local interior ministry said the suspect is a 40-year-old German man who was believed to have acted alone.
At least 2 people have died and several others have been injured after a car traveling at high speed ran into a crowd in the city of Mannheim in western Germany. Authorities activated Catwarn, a local warning system application, after detaining the car's driver, who is a 40-year-old German man believed to be acting alone.
We can also confirm that one person has been arrested as part of the investigation and the manhunt. We are unable to say whether there were several perpetrators. We have activated the Catwarn app and classified the area in Mannheim city centre as a dangerous place, so we are asking all residents and visitors to stay at home and evacuate this area.
Germany's federal government has issued an extreme danger warning in the city and say a large-scale police operation is underway. Meanwhile, passers-by say they have been shocked by the incident as they recall the moments following the crash.
There was a lot of traffic, and I was wondering what was going on anyway. I drove a little further into the city and suddenly saw a lot of police cars. I was really shocked to see what had happened. Suddenly I heard shots and lots of people started running in my direction. I didn't know exactly what was going on myself. I stood off to the side. I was a bit scared. Well, I was just pretty shocked about what had happened.
Well, I was definitely scared and shocked at first. I come from Mannheim, and I have a lot of friends here, a lot of acquaintances who are often out and about in the city. I was out and about 2 hours ago myself, and it really shocked me that something like that happened here, especially after what happened to the policeman a few months ago, and now this again. So it's scary, in any case.
This incident occurred as crowds gather in cities across western Germany for parades to mark the carnival season. Authorities were already on high alert ahead of the carnival celebrations, but this car crash has prompted forces in other cities to noticeably increase their presence around carnival events.
British Prime Minister Keir Starmer told Parliament that US President Donald Trump's wish for peace in Ukraine is sincere, adding that the US is vital to securing peace and that Britain will play a leading role in achieving it. Starmer's address to the MPs follows his announcement of a 4-point plan to work with Ukraine to end the war and defend the country from Russia. Starmer outlined the plan at yesterday's summit in London that gathered more than a dozen, mostly European leaders. The plan calls for continuing the flow of military aid, ensuring Ukraine's presence in peace talks, boosting the country's defense capabilities, and forming a coalition of willing countries that would defend the peace deal and provide security to Ukraine afterwards.
We must proceed with strength, and that does now require urgently a coalition of the willing. Mr. Speaker, we agreed on Sunday that those willing to play a role in this will intensify planning now. And as this House would expect, Britain will play a leading role with, if necessary, and together with others, boots on the ground and planes in the air. It is right that Europe do the heavy lifting to support peace on our continent. But to succeed, this effort must also have strong US backing.
Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky said he believes his relationship with US President Donald Trump can be salvaged despite their heated public exchange in the Oval Office last week. Speaking to reporters following the London summit, Zelensky said he doesn't expect US aid to Ukraine to stop, but stressed that future discussions should be held behind closed doors. He reaffirmed his willingness to sign a minerals deal with Washington.
Ми не робимо ніяких кроків назад. Це наша політика бути послідовною.
We are not making any steps back. This is our policy, to be consistent, regardless of what happened before. We are constructive. If we agree that minerals deal with US will be signed, from our side we are ready to sign. I honestly think the United States will be ready as well. Maybe they need time to analyze some things. I think our relations with the US will continue, because this is more than relations during a certain moment. We must be open. Ukraine is not the biggest country in the world, but everyone can see how it fights for its independence and freedom. We count on assistance from the United States of America, without a doubt. I think stopping such assistance will only help Putin. And because of that, I think the United States and representatives of the civilized world, leaders of this world, definitely won't help Putin.
At least a dozen people were injured when a drone struck a residential building in Ukraine's Kharkiv. Russia's defense ministry stated it launched attacks targeting Ukraine's military infrastructure.
Late on Sunday night, a drone struck a multi-story residential building in Kharkiv, Ukraine's second-largest city, injuring 8 people according to the local mayor. Ihor Terekov wrote on Telegram that the fire on the top floor spread to several apartments. According to him, none of the injured required hospitalization. Ukrainian military officials say there were 72 battles in frontline areas, varying in intensity, particularly in the Pokrovsk region. Ukrainian forces say they repelled 3 Russian attacks in Chasiv Yar and other locations, and 14 attacks in the Kursk region. Meanwhile, Russia's Ministry of Defense say that Russian forces targeted Ukraine's military airport infrastructure and natural gas processing facilities that support Ukraine's military capabilities. Additionally, Russian forces say it repelled several Ukrainian attacks and launched offensives in the directions of Donetsk, Zaporizhia, Kherson, and Luhansk. Several Ukrainian soldiers were killed and wounded, and infantry combat vehicles, artillery, and other equipment were destroyed.
The U.S. Defense Department wants to know what their civilian employees did in their jobs last week. The U.S. Defense Secretary has pledged to work closely with Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency to cut, quote, wasteful spending in the Pentagon. Ubay Shabander brings more from Washington.
U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has ordered the tens of thousands of civilian employees who work at the Pentagon to prepare 5 bullet points detailing what they accomplished in their jobs from the prior week. If this move sounds familiar, it's because it's a page borrowed straight from Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, also known as DOGE. On Monday, Department of Defense employees will receive an email requesting that information. They will have 48 hours to respond. After an initial pushback from government bureaucrats to Elon's government-wide email to all federal workers, there now seems to be broad alignment with the DOGE effort geared towards identifying so-called ghost employees and instilling greater accountability in the federal workforce. In a recent meeting with all of his cabinet officials, President Donald Trump endorsed Musk's work with DOGE. And Defense Secretary Hegseth has said that he will work closely with DOGE to tackle excess spending in the Pentagon. DOGE will be tasked with identifying previous priorities not core to the Defense Department's current mission, and then get rid of them. The Pentagon budget for 2025 is about $850 billion. Hegseth has said that he intends on an 8% cut in that budget. I'm Ubay Shabander for AnewZ, Washington, D.C.
Christian Stocker, the leader of the conservative Austrian People's Party, was sworn in as the country's chancellor. Stocker will lead a 3-party coalition government with the Social Democrats and the Liberal Neos. It's after 5 months of political stalemate since last year's election, which was won by the far-right Freedom Party. The center-right, liberal and center-left parties had already tried and failed to form a coalition, after which the Eurosceptic, Russia-friendly Freedom Party was given a chance to form a government, but also failed. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu took the stand at the Tel Aviv District Court in his long-running corruption trial. Netanyahu's testimony ended early. He faces 3 separate cases of corruption filed against him in 2019, which include accusations of bribery, fraud, and breach of trust. Netanyahu denies any wrongdoing, calling the accusations fake. He is the first sitting Israeli Prime Minister to take the stand as a criminal defendant in the country's history. Egyptian Foreign Minister Badr Abdelati says Egypt's Gaza reconstruction plan is ready and will be presented at the Arab Summit on Tuesday. The plan aims to keep Palestinians on their land, as Arab states oppose Donald Trump's plan for U.S. ownership of Gaza and expulsion of Palestinians. Cairo remains committed to maintaining the ceasefire and starting the next phase of negotiations, according to Abdelati. After the summit, an Organization of Islamic Cooperation ministerial meeting in Saudi Arabia will push for global recognition of the summit's decisions.
There is a ceasefire agreement consisting of 3 phases. We have finished the first phase. We must implement the remaining obligations and enter into rapid negotiations to discuss the second phase of the ceasefire agreement. I have also briefed the European Union Commissioner about the Egyptian Arab Islamic plan that will be adopted for reconstruction while the Palestinians remain in their places and on their land, and the importance of starting immediate early recovery programs followed by the planned reconstruction.
The United Nations has urged for the immediate restoration of humanitarian aid flow into Gaza. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres called on all sides to prevent renewed hostilities and allow aid into the Gaza Strip. Meanwhile, UN Relief Chief Tom Fletcher says that humanitarian workers must be granted access to deliver life-saving aid and warned of a worsening crisis. To Algeria now, where an annual campaign by the country's food bank aims to donate food parcels to 10,000 families during the holy month of Ramadan.
Volunteers gathered on the first day of Ramadan in Algeria's capital, Algiers, to help with the distribution of food items to families in need across the country. The initiative is part of the Algerian Food Bank program aimed at assisting 10,000 families across 20 provinces. This annual campaign, organized by humanitarian organizations, aims to embody the holy month of Ramadan's spirit of charity and community support.
Today we are here as part of the Ramadan Solidarity campaign for the Algerian Food Bank, like we do every year. This is the 13th edition of this project, in which we collect food items and distribute them to needy families across the country, in coordination with local associations at the national level. We aim to reach 10,000 families this year and provide them with this food parcel throughout the month of Ramadan, God willing.
I came to give my time and help people because no one can do this alone. We have to help each other and we meet new people.
The campaign focuses on not just providing food aid, but also engaging the youth as active participants within their communities with the intention of instilling values of giving and community service among younger generations.
Iran announced a major initiative to combat terrorism and drug trafficking by securing its border with Afghanistan. In the meantime, clashes broke out at the Afghanistan-Pakistan border. For the details, we go to Kabul and our Tamim Bahis.
Iran plans on completely sealing its 1,000-kilometer border with Afghanistan, according to Hossein Mousavi, head of the engineering department of Iran's armed forces. He says the country has already constructed dozens of kilometers of walls. He hopes it will dismantle smuggling networks and counter terrorist threats. According to Musawi, it's the first time in the history of the Islamic Republic that such a comprehensive border sealing initiative has been undertaken. It's expected to take 8 years to complete. Meanwhile, on the other side of the border in Afghanistan, tensions remain high. Local news sources report clashes between border forces near the Torkham crossing at Pakistan. The skirmish involved an exchange of fire using light and heavy weapons, though no casualties have been confirmed. This incident comes just a day after Pakistan and Afghan officials met to discuss the reopening of Torkham border crossing. It's been closed for more than a week. However, the talks ended without resolution, leaving the situation unresolved. Tamim Bahis, AnewZ, Kabul, Afghanistan.
Turkmenistan has begun delivering gas to Turkey under a deal to supply 1.3 billion cubic meters of gas by the end of this year. Our Fariza Kalimurzina has more.
The start of the flow of Turkmen gas to Turkey on Saturday marks a significant milestone after 27 years of negotiations. Authorities say Turkmenistan will deliver 1.3 billion cubic meters of gas by the end of the year. They say it's enough to meet the needs of 1.5 million Turkish households over the next 5 years. Last year, the two countries agreed the necessary technical and legal infrastructure to help supply Turkey with Turkmen gas. The route of the pipeline will pass through Iran. It's important to note that Turkmenistan has been supplying gas to Iran for many years, with the total pipeline capacity between the two countries reaching 12 billion cubic meters per year. Experts believe that this agreement will enhance Turkey's role as a key player in the energy market and open up the possibility for Turkmenistan to increase its gas exports to Europe. Additionally, in October of last year, Turkmenistan announced the termination of gas supplies to Russia. It was reported that the 5-year contract had expired and was not renewed. The Turkmen side explained this decision as part of its strategy to diversify exports, increase volume and raise prices. According to official data, Turkmenistan holds natural gas reserves of 17.5 trillion cubic meters, ranking fourth in the world behind Russia, Iran and Qatar. The country produces between 75 to 80 billion cubic meters of gas annually. 40 billion of that is exported each year, and China receives around 36 billion cubic meters. From Almaty, Kazakhstan, Fariza Kalimurzina, AnewZ.
President of Azerbaijan Ilham Aliyev received Kazakh Prime Minister Olzhas Bektenov to discuss the growing bilateral relations of the two countries. Aliyev highlighted the strong partnership, noting regular meetings with Kazakh President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev and Kazakhstan's support at COP29 in Azerbaijan last year. They agreed on key projects, including the development of the Trans-Caspian transport route, which saw a 60% increase in cargo flow last year. Other discussion points included growing trade, investment projects, and joint efforts in the oil and gas sector, including boosting the transportation of Kazakh oil via the Baku-Tbilisi-Ceyhan pipeline. Additionally, Aliyev and Bektenov focused on integrating the energy systems of both nations through an underwater cable. The continued cooperation between Azerbaijan and Kazakhstan was emphasized as a model of strong trust-based relations. The design and construction of an underwater fiber optic communication line along the Caspian Sea is a step closer after agreements were signed by the Prime Minister of Kazakhstan, Olzhas Bektenov, and his Azerbaijani counterpart, Ali Asadov. Several other agreements were signed as well. Kazakhstan is ready to increase the supply of 130 types of non-resource goods to Azerbaijan, valued at more than $340 million. Last year, trade turnover between the two countries reached $533 million. Both PMs commended work on the now completed integration of the digital trade corridor platform between the railways of the two countries. Former head of Troika Dialogue and billionaire businessman Ruben Vardanyan is at the center of major financial and political scandals and now stands trial in Azerbaijan. Accused of money laundering, sanctions evasion, and ties to the Kremlin, he also faced backlash for his Nobel Prize nomination and role in Karabakh.
Ruben Vardanyan, a Russian-Armenian oligarch and former banker. Investigations by the Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project revealed that Ruben Vardanyan's investment bank, Troika Dialogue, was central to a large-scale money laundering operation known as the Troika Laundromat. The scheme funneled billions of dollars from Russia to offshore accounts, benefiting Russian elites and Kremlin-affiliated figures. According to OCCRP, Vardanyan and his family personally received at least $3.2 million from the scheme, which covered expenses such as American Express payments, transfers to accounts belonging to his wife and family, tuition fees for his 3 children studying in the United Kingdom. Investigative journalist Paul Radu, who led the Troika Laundromat expose, stated that fake bank accounts under the names of impoverished Armenian citizens were used for multi-million-dollar transactions, often without their knowledge. While Vardanyan denies direct involvement, OCCRP findings suggest that his financial empire was deeply intertwined with Kremlin-linked networks. Vardanyan was also linked to Skolkovo, a Russian tech hub that received hundreds of millions of dollars in questionable loans. Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny publicly criticized the initiative, arguing that it served as a vehicle for oligarchic enrichment rather than technological innovation. Navalny highlighted that Sberbank loaned nearly $250 million to the Skolkovo Business School, with Vardanyan and billionaire Mikhail Fridman personally guaranteeing the loan. Critics argue that this financial structure concealed illicit transactions disguised as legitimate investments. In 2022, Vardanyan renounced his Russian citizenship and relocated to Karabakh, assuming the role of state minister in the so-called unrecognized self-proclaimed Nagorno-Karabakh Republic. His sudden move fueled speculation that he was placed there by Moscow to maintain Russian influence in the region and counteract Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan's pro-Western policies. Analysts argue that his appointment was a calculated geopolitical maneuver, allowing Russia to control Armenia-Azerbaijan negotiations while exerting broader influence in the South Caucasus. During his time in Karabakh, Azerbaijani authorities accused Vardanyan of funding and organizing illegal armed factions. The Azerbaijani State Security Service stated that his actions directly violated international and Azerbaijani law. Official charges under Azerbaijan's criminal code include Article 214-1, financing of terrorism, Article 279.3, participation in illegal armed formations, Article 318.1, illegal border crossing. Reports also suggest that he played a role in orchestrating anti-Azerbaijani demonstrations, framing environmental protests as an Azerbaijani blockade against Armenians in Karabakh. Due to his alleged financial and political activities, Vardanyan has faced increasing international scrutiny. Ukraine sanctioned him for alleged links to Russian military logistics. 46 US Congress members called for personal sanctions against him in 2022. The European Parliament urged financial restrictions due to his ties with Russian oligarchs. Ukraine's Mirotvorets database lists him as an enabler of Russian aggression. In a BBC Hard Talk interview, Vardanyan refused to condemn Russia's invasion of Ukraine, further fueling suspicions of his loyalties. Reports indicate Vardanyan may have ties to Iran, a country accused of supplying Russia with drones used in Ukraine. Investigations suggest he may have engaged in economic dealings with Iranian-backed entities. In an unexpected turn, Vardanyan was nominated for the 2024 Nobel Peace Prize, sparking outrage in Ukraine and Azerbaijan. It is grotesque to nominate a person who supports terrorism, separatism, and corruption while financing Russian aggression, stated a letter from 18 Ukrainian MPs to the Nobel Committee. Political analysts labeled the nomination a lobbying effort by Armenian interest groups attempting to rebrand him as a humanitarian figure, despite Vardanyan's activities that have led to increased uncertainty in several geographic regions. Vardanyan was arrested on September 27, 2023, while attempting to cross into Armenia. Azerbaijani authorities claim to have substantial evidence linking him to terrorist financing and illegal activities in Karabakh. His trial, which began in January 2025, is being closely monitored as a potential precedent for prosecuting individuals involved in financial crimes with geopolitical implications. Western legal experts suggest that this case could reshape accountability for oligarchs accused of laundering money, funding separatism, and supporting military conflicts.
A wildfire continues to spread in northeastern Japan, forcing officials to expand evacuation orders for nearly 4,600 people. Aerial footage from Japan's self-defense force shows flames engulfing homes and trees near Ofunato City in Iwate Prefecture. According to local officials, one person has died. At least 2,000 firefighters are tackling the blaze, which began last Wednesday. So far, the fire has burned more than 2,100 hectares. Heavy rainfall in northwestern Peru led to flooding of farmland and damage to infrastructure. Hundreds of families have been forced to evacuate.
Heavy rainfall in northwestern Peru has caused a river to overflow, leading to severe destruction. The natural disaster has damaged infrastructure and flooded agricultural lands. According to reports, at least 150 families in the Tumbes province have been seriously affected. In the Corrales district, images shared by local media show at least one house submerged in floodwaters, while others are surrounded by strong currents. Affected residents are struggling under difficult conditions to reach safer areas. According to the relevant authorities, the disaster has destroyed over 5,000 hectares of farmland, with banana, lemon and cereal production suffering significant damage. Officials have urged the government to declare a state of emergency to mobilize the necessary resources to the affected region as quickly as possible. Currently, the Peruvian Army and Navy are working alongside regional authorities to implement preventive measures and reduce risks.
In finance news, Bitcoin surged by more than 20% after US President Donald Trump announced a new digital asset reserve plan. Several other cryptocurrencies saw a jump in value as well.
Bitcoin and several other cryptocurrencies saw a sharp rise, with Bitcoin trading up by more than 20% from previous week's lows. This surge follows an announcement by US President Donald Trump regarding a new US strategic reserve for digital assets. In a post on Truth Social, Trump revealed that his January executive order on digital assets would establish a stockpile of several key cryptocurrencies, including Bitcoin, Ether, XRP, Solana, and Cardano. This marks the first time these particular digital assets were mentioned in relation to the reserve, with Bitcoin and Ether set to play central roles. This announcement sent Bitcoin soaring, flipping sentiment on the world's largest cryptocurrency, which had been on a downward trend since mid-January. The cryptocurrency's decline had been driven by disappointment, as investors had hoped Trump would loosen regulations, given his positive stance on cryptocurrency during his election campaign.
If crypto is going to define the future, I want to be mined, minted, and made in the USA. It's going to be. It's not going to be made anywhere else. And if Bitcoin is going to the moon, as we say, it's going to the moon, I want America to be the nation that leads the way. And that's what's going to happen.
However, since taking office, aside from some crypto-friendly appointments, tangible action has been limited.
The 97th Academy Awards have been presented, with the film Anora taking home 5 Oscars for Best Picture, Best Editing, Best Director, Best Original Screenplay, and Best Actress. Here are the highlights of the evening.
The 97th Academy Awards took place at the Dolby Theatre in Los Angeles, with Conan O'Brien hosting the star-studded event.
Anora.
The biggest winner of the night was Anora, which took home the coveted Best Picture award. The director of the film, Sean Baker, also won Best Director, while Mikey Madison secured Best Actress for her powerful performance in the film.
Mikey Madison.
In the Best Actor category, Adrian Brody won for his role in The Brutalist, where he portrayed a Jewish immigrant and aspiring architect struggling to make a name for himself. The Supporting Acting Awards went to Kieran Culkin, who won Best Supporting Actor for A Real Pain.
I have to thank my wife, Jazz, for absolutely everything, for giving me...
Zoe Saldana earned Best Supporting Actress for her performance in Emilia Perez.
Zoe Saldana.
The night also celebrated international cinema, with Brazil's I'm Still Here winning Best International Feature and Latvia's Flow taking home Best Animated Feature. Meanwhile, Dune Part 2 won in the technical categories, securing Best Visual Effects and Best Sound. Wicked made history in the design categories, winning Best Production Design and Best Costume Design. At the ceremony, in a heartfelt moment, the audience also gave a standing ovation to California firefighters who have been battling severe wildfires across the state. Their bravery and dedication was highlighted.
Well, that's all we have for you for now. Thank you for watching and stay tuned to AnewZ.